Welcome my family. Before we jump in, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family. I'd also love to know where you're watching from and what time is it there. Please hype me on YouTube. Thanks. I never thought a simple solo trip would twist itself into one of the strangest and most disturbing memories of my life. Even now, whenever I try to talk about it, my voice tightens like my body is warning me not to bring that night back into the room. But I know if I don't tell it properly, if I don't lay out every emotion and every moment as I remember it, it'll keep haunting me in little flashes for the rest of my life. So here it goes. My trip took me to Pine Ridge, Colorado, for a 3-day professional workshop. As a youth counselor, my job demands a lot of travel, conferences, lectures, and training sessions, but I honestly prefer driving to flying. Being alone on the road offers a kind of quiet space I crave, a temporary escape from everything. Also, flights were expensive, and my car felt like my own safe little bubble. The workshop itself went smoothly, but my mind was far from settled. I was still reeling from the abrupt end of a 2-year relationship, and the memory of it was still a sharp, stinging pain. My ex never physically hurt me, but the emotional distance, the way he could stare right through me, made me feel like I was a ghost in my own house. When the relationship finally ended, I felt a strange mix of relief and profound emptiness. I stayed an extra night after the conference just to clear my head, exploring quiet trails, eating alone at a small diner, and watching strangers laugh together. It felt like everyone had someone, except me. When I finally packed my car on Sunday morning, I actually felt a good kind of fatigue, lighter, like the long drive home would be a genuine reset. But the universe had a very different plan. I drove all day through long, empty stretches of highway, flat, open land dotted by tiny towns every few hundred miles. By the time the sun fully dipped, I was somewhere along Highway 287 in northern New Mexico, heading toward Texas. It was getting late, around 9 p.m., and while I wasn't sleepy, I was stiff and hungry. When I saw a sign for the Mesa Creek Rest Area, I decided to pull over, stretch my legs, grab a snack, and keep going. It looked small, but reasonably well lit. A couple of semi-trucks and a few SUVs were parked there, nothing immediately strange. Yet, the moment I pulled in, the air felt thick, different. Perhaps it was the oppressive heat of the night, or the sheer isolation of the highway, or maybe it was an unconscious warning about what was coming. I parked near the building and headed inside for the restroom. The air was a typical blend of pine and diesel fumes. When I stepped back out, everything felt normal until my eyes landed on him. He was standing in the grassy area by a large oak tree, isolated, not near the building, not near any cars, just there. His posture was awkward, almost unnatural, as if he didn't know what to do with his own hands. He wasn't using a phone, wasn't smoking, and definitely wasn't stretching, just a thin guy in dark jeans and a faded hoodie staring straight toward the rest stop lights. And then I realized he wasn't looking at the lights. He was staring directly at me. I initially thought I was imagining it, so I glanced over my shoulder to see if someone was walking up behind me. Nope. I was the only one in motion. Okay, I whispered to myself, trying to prevent the sudden spread of nerves. Just get straight to the car. You know that buzzing sensation, the one your instincts send before your brain can even process the danger? That's exactly what I felt. My stomach clenched and my heart rate instantly picked up. I walked the short distance to my car without ever looking back. But once I was seated in the driver's seat and opening my door, I couldn't resist. I glanced up. He was still there, still staring. No wave, no blink, just standing stiffly in the patchy, dim light with a bizarre expression, like he was studying me, but didn't want me to realize it. Dude, what the hell? I whispered. He wasn't a movie villain. He wasn't covered in tattoos, wasn't holding a weapon, wasn't grinning or making threatening moves. But the intensity of his gaze felt fundamentally wrong. I cranked the engine, hit the lock button, and pulled out. As I exited the rest area, I checked my rearview mirror one last time. He hadn't moved an inch. I drove another hour and a half before I finally stopped in Claremont, Texas, at a small roadside hotel. It wasn't a chain, but it looked clean enough. By then, I was thoroughly exhausted. I took a shower, ate the snacks I had packed, scrolled aimlessly on my phone, and finally fell asleep around midnight. Nothing weird happened that night, just regular highway hotel boredom. The next morning, I grabbed a coffee, checked out, and continued my drive home. The entire day was a blur of empty highway, podcasts, music, and fast food stops. Nothing memorable at all. By the time I finally pulled into my neighborhood around 7 p.m., the trip felt entirely normal. The unnerving man at the rest stop had completely slipped into the back of my mind. I had tried to convince myself, you were alone, you were tired. He was just a random, weird guy standing still. Chill. But that night proved I was wrong. Terribly wrong. I was in my kitchen, unpacking my suitcase, when I heard something outside. It wasn't a distinct knock, but more of a movement, the slight scrape of shoes on concrete, or the shifting of weight on my front step. It was subtle, but definitely there. I walked toward the window beside the door, not overly concerned. Maybe a late package, maybe an animal. But the moment I looked out, my lungs seized up. My fingers clawed against the windowsill. My entire body went instantly cold because, standing on my front step, mere feet from my door, was the man from the rest stop. Same faded hoodie, same thin silhouette, the exact same unsettling posture. This time, however, he wasn't staring blankly. His head was tilted slightly, like he was listening intently to something inside the house. He wasn't knocking, wasn't pacing. He was simply waiting. I held my breath. I didn't make a sound. I simply reached over and flipped on the porch light. The instant the light hit him, he ran. No hesitation, no confusion, he just sprinted away like a cornered animal, vanishing across the street and into the dark shadow of the sidewalk. I stumbled back from the window, my hands shaking so violently that I nearly dropped my phone as I fumbled to call someone. Anyone. I nearly hit the wrong contact. I finally managed to call my best friend, Lily. The moment she answered, my voice shattered. Lil, someone was just at my door. What? Who? What happened? I paused, pressing a trembling hand against my forehead. It was the guy from the rest stop. I swear to God it was him. Her tone shifted instantly to one of sharp disbelief. Wait, what? How would he even? No, that doesn't make sense. I know it doesn't, I insisted. That's what absolutely terrifies me. Call the cops. I did. They arrived quickly, performed a brief sweep, and asked the standard, routine questions. I told them everything, even describing the rest stop and the exact oak tree he'd been standing under. The officers were professional but clearly skeptical. One suggested gently, "Ma'am, could it maybe have been someone else? Someone local? It happens sometimes, people misidentify strangers from a distance." I know what I saw, I insisted, but he simply offered a polite nod without looking convinced. They patrolled around the block for a little while and then left, abandoning me to stare at my own front yard like it was an enemy waiting for its next opportunity. I barely slept. Every tiny noise made me jump. Every passing car sent my heart racing. I repeatedly checked the locks, the backyard, and the windows, but the man never came back. A cynical part of me started to wonder if the police were right. Maybe I had imagined it. Perhaps someone else, a local who looked similar, had simply been at the wrong house. But deep down, I knew better. The look he gave me at the rest stop wasn't something you forget. It was eerie, focused, and intent in a way that felt entirely deliberate, not accidental. It was the kind of stare that chills you to the bone. I told several people the story, and every single one offered a theory. Maybe he followed you. How would he know where she lived? Maybe it's a huge coincidence, and he lives nearby. Maybe she's mixing up two different guys. But I know what I saw. The detail that keeps me awake sometimes, even now, is the timing. He didn't follow me into the hotel. I checked the security footage with the manager later. Nothing. No car matching his, no hoodie, no man matching his build. So, how the hell did he suddenly appear on my front step, hundreds of miles away? How did he find me? I still don't have the answer. I replay that question far too many nights. And here's the weirdest part: 2 months later, while driving to the grocery store, I saw a missing person poster taped to a telephone pole. It was for a young man from 2 towns over. Last seen wearing a dark hoodie and jeans. Described as quiet, thin, and socially withdrawn. The photo on the poster was blurry, and while something about the face felt vaguely familiar, it was impossible to be certain. I sat in my parked car, staring at the pole for a long time. Was it him, or was I just desperate to force a connection because I was scared? I'll never know for sure. I still lock my doors much earlier than I used to. I still actively avoid rest stops at night. And sometimes, late at night, when the house settles or a tree branch scrapes my window, I jolt awake, convinced he's returned. But he never did return. Not once. And that, somehow, scares me the most, because it suggests he wasn't after anything simple. He wanted something specific. Maybe he mistook me for someone else. Maybe he was just profoundly unstable. Maybe he really did live near me, and it was a terrible stack of coincidences. Or maybe he found me because he wanted to, and when the bright porch light exposed him, he realized he'd made a mistake that sent him sprinting away. Every now and then, when I'm driving alone on a long, empty highway and the night gets too quiet, I feel like I'm still being watched. I still check my rearview mirror. Because sometimes the road shows you someone once, and they show up again where you least expect them. And sometimes, once is all it takes. I always thought that road trips with my best friend were the safest place in the world, our own little escape from whatever stress life kept throwing at us. Back then, I was 24, working double shifts at a diner in northern Indiana, exhausted and honestly kind of drifting. My best friend, Riley, was the one who convinced me to take this trip. She said we deserved a reset, which was her kind way of saying I needed to stop drowning in my own overthinking. We had been inseparable since freshman year of high school, 2 awkward girls in thrift store jackets pretending to know anything about the world. She grew into the loud, bold type, and I remained the quiet observer. But we balanced each other out. She pulled me out of my shell, and I pulled her out of trouble, or at least tried to. The plan was simple: drive from Indiana to Colorado Springs for a 3-day girls' trip. No responsibilities, no schedules, just my beat-up blue Toyota and cheap gas station snacks. We packed light, hoodies, leggings, a disposable camera she insisted on bringing, and a playlist labeled, Bad Decisions Vibes. Everything felt normal, safe, like the world had hit the pause button. But I swear, sometimes the worst things don't announce themselves. They sneak in quietly, disguised as a normal night on the highway. And that night, the one I still can't think about without my stomach churning, started just as casually. We were somewhere in eastern Kansas when the sun finally dipped and the sky turned that hazy purple. Riley was asleep. Riley's hoodie was pulled up over her face, her mouth slightly open, and she was snoring like an old dog. I kept laughing quietly every time she made that tiny whistling sound with her nose. "Girl, you good?" I whispered, nudging her. She didn't even stir. I rolled my eyes and kept driving. The highway stretched endlessly in front of us, empty except for the occasional semi-truck rolling past. It was peaceful, almost too peaceful. The kind of quiet that lets your mind start digging up things you've been trying hard to ignore. I checked the time, 11:42 p.m. We were still about 5 hours from Colorado. I told myself I could push through, but my eyelids were starting to feel like concrete. I needed a break, even a 15-minute nap would help. That's when I spotted the sign, Pilot Travel Center, exit 217. Food, showers, parking. Perfect. Riley, I said, shaking her thigh. I'm going to pull over and crash for a bit. She stretched like a cat. Where are we? Kansas. The middle of nowhere part. Did we pass anything cool? No, unless you're into cows and dead grass. Gross. She rubbed her eyes. Okay, yeah, let's stop. I didn't know it yet, but deciding to stop there was the first mistake. The Pilot wasn't special, just a big, brightly lit building with truck pumps on one side and a quieter car parking area on the other. The lot had 3 main rows for overnight parking, and the last row angled close to a tall chain-link fence marked no access. About 10 vans and trucks were already parked, most with curtains drawn or blankets taped across the windows, people resting, just like us. I pulled into a spot close to the building, right under the brightest light, because that always felt safest. You want anything? I asked. A Coke, she mumbled. And maybe hot Cheetos. You're insane, I muttered. It's midnight, I told her. She just smirked. She stayed in the car while I went inside, returning quickly with the drinks, snacks, and 2 bottled waters. When I came back out, she was already reclined in her seat, scrolling through TikTok. I'm going to nap for 20 minutes, I told her. Bet. I'll keep watch, she said, immediately betraying that promise by yawning so hard her jaw cracked. I reclined my seat, pulled my hoodie up to my chin, and let the white noise of the parking lot hum me to sleep. I don't know how long I was out, maybe an hour, maybe less, but something snapped me awake. Footsteps. Heavy ones, right outside my door. They were coming from behind the passenger side and stopped directly next to me. My eyes flew open. And that's when I saw him. A man, maybe mid-30s, with a scruffy beard, a dirty baseball cap, and an oversized jacket, was walking away from our car. He must have noticed my sudden movement because he instantly turned his head, saw me staring, gave a casual little wave, and then walked right back toward my window. Riley sat bolt upright. What the hell, she hissed. He reached my window and leaned down slightly. Hey there, he said, his voice gratingly cheerful for midnight. Sorry to wake you, but my car won't start. I was hoping you could give me a jump. His accent was a rough, Midwest drawl, as if he'd been smoking his whole life. I should have instantly said no, but half asleep and startled, I just mumbled, sure, I guess. Riley instantly shot me a look that screamed, are you actually stupid? Great, he said, stepping back. Just follow me. He started walking toward the far row, the one by the chain-link fence, the darkest part of the lot. I put the car in drive, and Riley slapped my arm. Dude, no. Hell no. Why would you say yes? I panicked. I wasn't thinking. Well, think now. This is weird as hell. I know. I'll just see what the situation is. We'll keep the doors locked. Girl, we are not mechanics at midnight in Kansas, she hissed. This dude could be a straight-up serial killer. I swallowed hard. She wasn't wrong. He kept walking toward the back, heading for a beat-up RV parked crookedly next to an old pickup truck filled with piles of random junk. Something inside me screamed to stop, so I jammed on the brakes. Halfway down the row, I stopped the car. The man noticed and started waving frantically. Come on forward. Right here. Just pull up. Nope. Absolutely not, Riley whispered, her voice tight. He's trying to box us in. The parking space looked impossibly tight. Just enough room for one car to squeeze awkwardly between the RV and the truck. No way, I muttered. But driven by some stupid instinct that overruled logic, I edged the car a little closer, still maintaining a safe distance. The man shook the jumper cables, motioning aggressively. Then, the RV door swung open and a woman stepped out fast, like she'd been waiting for a signal. Her hair was messy, long, and stringy, her eyes wide and frantic. She immediately started signaling at me too. Pull up, she yelled. Just pull up. Back up, Riley hissed, rigid in her seat. Right now. The woman kept screaming, don't be scared, honey. Just come on up. I could see shadows shifting and movement within the RV. My hands started to shake uncontrollably. Something was profoundly, terrifyingly wrong. I shouted through the closed window. The cables have to reach from here. I am not pulling in there. Her expression snapped instantly from fake friendly to pure fury. Pull up. She screamed, her voice cracking. That's when the man ran to her, yelling, Jesus, shut up. Go inside. Go. They argued, their angry voices muffled. I had the sudden, sickening realization, they expected our car to be trapped between that RV and the truck. He approached my window again, trying to sound calm. Just pull up closer, he said, but his voice was too soft, too controlled. 5 more feet, and I can hook it up. We'll be done in 2 minutes. Riley was shaking her head violently. Go. 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 I'm sorry, I said, glaring at him, keeping my foot near the accelerator. I can't help with this. His face twitched with frustration. Seriously, he snapped. My mother's sick. I need to get home. That's not my problem, I retorted, my voice cracking despite my effort to sound firm. I immediately slammed the car into reverse. He took a threatening step toward the car just as the woman burst back out of the RV, screaming at him and pointing at us. Blame was already bouncing between them. I didn't wait. I floored it backward, the tires screeching as we pulled out of the parking spot, narrowly avoiding the trash-filled bed of the pickup truck. I didn't slow down for 10 minutes straight. My hands were trembling so badly I thought I might lose control of the wheel. What the hell was that? Riley kept repeating. What the actual hell was that? I don't know, I whispered. But deep down, I did know. And so did she. They weren't stranded. They weren't trying to jump a dead battery. They were waiting. Waiting for the right car, waiting for the right girls. Waiting for someone half asleep, someone too trusting, someone who wouldn't question things until it was already too late. We drove for another hour before finding a brightly lit love station closer to a city. We parked strategically under a security camera, wedged between 2 RVs occupied by obvious families. We didn't talk, we barely breathed. Neither of us truly slept the rest of that night. Even now, months later, I still replay the scenario, what if I hadn't woken up? What if I had pulled into that tight, dark gap? What if we had stepped out of the car? Would we still be here? Those questions haunt me more than anything else. I'll never know what those people were actually planning. But I know for damn sure it wasn't a jump start. And I know one more thing. And I know one more thing. Whenever people tell me road trips are safe, that the Midwest is friendly, or that strangers on the road are just good folks trying to get home, I feel that cold shiver down my spine. Because now I know some people don't wave for help. They wave you into a trap. I always thought long road trips would fix the things I never talked about, the loneliness, the burnout, the feeling that my life in Bloom, Missouri was shrinking around me like a small, suffocating box. After losing my job at the travel magazine last winter, things had gone downhill fast. My friends were getting promotions, engagements, and starting families, and I stayed stuck, 26, living in a cramped apartment above a laundromat with a car that rattled every time I crossed 50 miles per hour. So, when I finally saved enough to take a solo trip down to Sundown Valley, Texas, to visit my childhood best friend, I treated it like some sort of personal reset. My mom had cried when I packed the trunk. "Leah, baby, just call me every few hours. You know how these highways get after dark." I had only laughed. "Mom, I'll be fine. People do solo trips all the time." But deep down, there was a knot inside me, a weird feeling I couldn't explain, a sort of pressure behind the ribs, like something was waiting to happen. I brushed it off. Anxiety loved playing tricks on me lately. And then the trip began. The highway stretched out like a black ribbon as I crossed southern Missouri. The air in the car smelled like pine, recent rain, and the cheap vanilla latte I'd spilled on the passenger seat. My playlist ran through old high school songs, tracks that carried memories that weren't as sweet now. After 8 hours of driving, the sky turned a bruised purple, then pitch black. Traffic thinned until I felt like the only person left on the planet. Somewhere past the Arkansas border, my GPS started glitching. Rerouting. Rerouting. Signal lost. Great, I muttered. Just freaking great. The road became emptier, quieter. No gas stations, no restaurants, not even those cheesy billboards with cowboys holding giant burgers. Just endless, dark woods on both sides and the faint hum of my engine. By 12:21 a.m., exhaustion had made my eyelids heavy. I hadn't eaten since the afternoon, my throat was dry, and my bladder was absolutely done with me. That's when I saw it, a blue metal sign reflecting my headlights. Rest area, 1 mile. 24 hours. No security on site. Well, that's comforting, I mumbled. But after 2 hours of seeing nothing, I didn't have many options left. The rest area sat tucked behind a line of thick pine trees like it was deliberately hiding. The parking lot was long, cracked, and poorly lit. A single, flickering lamp buzzed above the restroom building. No cars, no trucks, no overnight travelers. Just me. "Leah, you got this," I whispered to myself, gripping the steering wheel a little tighter. In and out. 2 minutes. I parked right in front of the building and immediately grabbed the small can of pepper spray my mom had forced me to keep. The rest area smelled of cold tile, old mop water, and a faint metallic tang beneath it all. Was it rust or something else? I couldn't tell. The vending machines hummed loudly, sounding strained. The door to the women's restroom creaked when I pushed it open. "Hello." I called out, purely out of habit. No reply. I hurried inside, relieved myself quickly, washed my hands, splashed cold water on my tired face, and took a deep breath. Then, thump. A sudden, heavy footstep outside. I froze. Another one. Closer, slow, and measured. Not casual walking, but deliberate. My breath hitched. I leaned toward the entrance, listening hard. Someone stopped right outside the women's restroom. I could feel the presence, heavy, still. "Hello." I whispered again, softer this time. No answer. Instead, bang. I jumped, my heart slamming against my ribs. Someone hit the bathroom door hard. Once, then again, faster and louder. The door wasn't locked, it couldn't lock. All they had to do was push it open. But they didn't. They just kept pounding. "Hey!" I shouted, forcing my voice to sound strong. "Back off, dude." No voice replied. No laugh, no words, just loud, violent pounding. Then, suddenly, silence. Dead silence. My pulse hammered in my ears. Slow footsteps began retreating. Then the door to the lobby creaked open, closed, and the entire building went quiet again. I waited 1 minute, 2, 3. Finally, I forced myself to walk out. Pepper spray up, my hands trembling violently, I stepped out. Nobody. The vending machine hummed. A lone moth flickered against the buzzing overhead light. The air felt colder than before. I scrambled out to my car. Still no other vehicle. Still no sound of someone driving away. Where the hell did he go? I whispered. I started the engine. The narrow exit road lay ahead, just one lane slicing between dark woods on both sides. As I rolled forward, my headlights cutting through the trees, a man stepped out of the woods. My foot slammed the brakes so hard the seatbelt punched my chest. He stood about 40, maybe older, with long graying hair, a scruffy beard, a thick brown field jacket, and boots that looked like they'd survived a war. His face was a roadmap of deep lines carved by anger. His eyes didn't blink. It hit me instantly, he was the one who had been banging on the door. "God, no," I whispered. He didn't move. Didn't wave, didn't signal, just stared. I tried inching forward. He stepped closer. I reversed. He walked faster, maintaining the distance. "What do you want?" I screamed through the glass. He didn't answer, just kept coming. I slammed the gear into reverse and floored it. Gravel scattered behind me as I shot backward across the parking lot. He started running, full sprint, boots pounding the asphalt, hands outstretched like claws. "Come on, come on, come on." I screamed, spinning the wheel hard. I shot toward the entrance. It was a one-way road, cars were supposed to enter from the highway, not exit. I didn't care. If someone had driven in at that exact second, I would have been killed. But luck held. I burst out of the entrance, made a nearly illegal right turn, and flew onto the highway. My car rattled with speed, the trees became a blur. My hands were shaking uncontrollably on the wheel. As I passed the actual rest area exit, where the road rejoined the highway, my headlights caught him again. He was standing on the shoulder, facing me, watching me leave, like he already knew I would come this way. My throat closed. Tears blurred my eyes. I drove 15 miles before I was finally coherent enough to call 911. "Ma'am, calm down," the operator kept repeating. "We'll send an officer to check it out." But I never heard anything more, and that should have been the end of it. It should have been. But 3 nights later, after reaching Sundown Valley, after finally relaxing, after telling myself it was just some random, unstable drifter, I heard something outside my friend's apartment. Heavy footsteps, slow, deliberate. Then a soft knock on the front door. 3 taps, just like the banging I heard at the rest stop. I froze in the hallway. "Leah," my friend called from the living room. "You expecting anybody?" "No," I whispered, my heart sinking into my stomach. I stepped toward the peephole with shaking hands. I looked out, my vision tunneling. Standing directly under the porch light was the same man. Same long hair, same thick jacket, same boots, his face half-shadowed. He slowly lifted his head and smiled, a horrifyingly slow smile that never reached his eyes, as if he'd been waiting, tracking, and following me the entire time. My breath shattered. I stumbled backward. My friend, confused, walked past me and peeked out the window. "What the hell? Do you know that guy?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because as soon as she looked, he simply stepped backward into the darkness and vanished. We called the police again. They found nothing. No footprints. No sign of him on any cameras. Nothing. That night, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Because somewhere deep inside, I knew he hadn't followed me for my wallet. He hadn't followed me for my car. He'd followed me because I had been alone, vulnerable, and easy to corner in that silent rest area. And maybe because once he'd seen my face, he didn't want to forget it. I moved back home 3 weeks later. I quit traveling. I started sleeping with the lights on. And every once in a while, when I drive late at night and pass a quiet wooded area, I swear I can see a silhouette near the tree line, just standing, watching, waiting for me to stop again. I don't think he's done. Not yet. I never planned on telling anyone what happened on that trip, mostly because every time I think about it, my hands still shake. But some memories don't fade, no matter how badly you want them to. Mine started last summer when school finally let out, and I convinced my girlfriend, Riley Hart, to take a small road trip with me from Kansas City, Missouri down to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Riley and I had been together for 3 years. She was loud, funny, chaotic, sarcastic, impulsive. And somehow still the calmest human being I knew when things went wrong. I always joked she could keep her cool even if the roof blew off our house. I, on the other hand, was the anxious planner type, the Google Maps queen, obsessed with emergency kits, and forever double-checking every gas station bathroom as if a murderer lived in the last stall. Ava, she'd always laugh. You gotta chill. We're just driving. It's the Midwest, not a horror movie. But she didn't say that this time. Because she was the one who ended up the most terrified. We left on a Friday morning around 9 a.m. Riley grabbed the auxiliary cord. You drive first. My coffee hasn't kicked in yet. Mine never kicks in, I muttered, adjusting my seat. She laughed. Yeah, well, that's why I'm the fun one. We hit I-35, drove through normal morning traffic, and stopped at a little diner near Wichita where an elderly couple served us blueberry pie. We laughed, took pictures, played music, and complained about our students like any burnt-out teachers would. Nothing strange, nothing off, just 2 girlfriends enjoying the start of summer. By sunset, we were passing through Amarillo, planning to reach Albuquerque later that night. If I had known what was coming, I might have turned the car around right then. At 8:27 p.m., we pulled into a big truck stop called Rock Ridge Travel Plaza. It looked like every other busy American roadside hub. Bright lights, rows of semi-trucks, a large convenience store with showers, snacks, and cold sodas. Riley said, I'm going to hit the restroom and grab snacks. You get the gas. Got you. I stepped out and fueled up, but as I finished, I noticed something a little strange. In the far corner of the lot, an old beige pickup truck sat idling. The headlights were off, but the engine was running, and the windows were tinted dark. I couldn't see the driver at all, but I didn't think much of it. Truckers nap in their vehicles all the time. After fueling, I used the restroom, then headed back to the car. Riley took a few extra minutes but emerged carrying a giant bag of snacks, corn nuts, peach rings, beef jerky, and iced tea. Hoarder, I teased. Road trip tax, she grinned. We left the truck stop like it was nothing, but nothing about that place was nothing. Around 9 p.m., once we were back on the highway, traffic was still decent. I drove while Riley scrolled on her phone. But an hour later, the road thinned out, and darkness fully settled in. That's when I noticed it in my mirror, the same beige pickup truck from the stop. Riley glanced back, too. Is that the one from earlier? Probably a coincidence, I said, but I instantly recognized the dented bumper and the foggy left headlight. It didn't pass us. It didn't drift away. It just stayed right behind us. Riley shifted uncomfortably. Dude, he's not passing. Everyone else is. I know, I admitted, trying not to panic. Another hour passed. The pickup stayed. At 9:58 p.m., both our phones read no service. Riley groaned. Seriously, we're still in 2024, right? Our maps froze, no directions. Don't freak out, I told her. The highway is basically straight. But I was nervous. A few minutes later, I saw an exit for Route 287. It looked like the connection toward the highway we needed, so I took it. The pickup took it too. Riley sat up straight. Ava, that's not coincidence anymore. After the exit, we immediately saw construction signs, road work ahead. Detour. Bright arrows pointed us toward a smaller road. Then an even smaller, one-lane road. Then a narrow country road. Then a dirt road. My stomach twisted. This can't be right, Riley whispered. Why are we the only ones on this detour? The pickup remained behind us. Same distance, same slow follow. Not too close, not too far, like he was hurting us, guiding us, or cornering us. Up ahead, a giant sign read, "Road closed. No through traffic." I stopped. The pickup stopped. Riley grabbed my arm. Turn around. Now. I started a U-turn. The pickup moved too, but instead of reversing, it swung sideways and instantly blocked the entire narrow road. Headlights off, engine humming quietly, a dark silhouette behind the wheel. Riley's voice cracked. Ava, go forward. Go forward now. My chest felt like it was shrinking. I spun the wheel back, drove toward the barrier, and cut slightly off-road to bypass the road closed sign. The instant I got around it, the pickup jerked forward fast, as if it suddenly realized we were escaping. I floored the gas pedal. The dirt road ahead was pitch black, no houses, no streetlights, nothing but desert scrub and our headlights slicing through the night. Riley looked back. He's speeding up. Ava, go, go, go. I am. The engine roared, gravel sprayed behind us. My heart hammered so loudly I couldn't hear myself think. Up ahead, AT intersection. Left or right? No time. I swerved left. The pickup overshot the turn by a second, giving us a few crucial feet of distance. At the next fork, I did something reckless. I turned the headlights off. Riley screamed, "Are you freaking insane? Just trust me." We crawled in the pitch dark, guiding ourselves by the faintest moonlight. The car rattled violently over the bumpy ground. The pickup roared past the intersection. He hadn't seen us in the darkness. He kept driving straight into nowhere. We lost him, Riley whispered, trembling. But I refused to stop. For the next 30-40 minutes, we navigated random gravel tracks and forgotten farm roads, no lights, no cell service, nothing but pure fear and desperate judgment calls. Finally, like a miracle, the main highway reappeared. We merged on. Signal returned to both phones at the exact same moment. Riley exhaled so hard she nearly sobbed. Ava, what the hell just happened? I don't know, I whispered. But I did. And deep inside, so did she. The next morning at the Albuquerque motel, we went down for breakfast. Riley was scrolling lazily through her phone when suddenly her spoon dropped. Ava, look. It was a local news alert, 2 women missing near back roads off Route 287. Police warn drivers not to follow unauthorized detour signs. Witnesses reported an older beige pickup truck near the area. Unauthorized. Meaning the signs weren't real. Someone placed them. Someone who used that path. Someone who hunted in that area. Someone who followed women off the main road. My hands went instantly cold. Riley whispered, "Ava, that truck. It was the same model." I couldn't speak. We could have been them. We could have disappeared off that dirt road, and no one would have ever known where to look. 3 days later, driving back toward Kansas City, Riley sat quietly for most of the ride. "Ava," she finally said. "Yeah. There's something I didn't tell you." "What?" She swallowed hard. "When I was inside the truck stop, a guy approached me. He told me, pretty girls shouldn't be out here alone." His voice was off. Creepy off. My skin prickled. "Why didn't you tell me then?" "I didn't want to freak you out. I just walked away." "But Ava, I think he followed me outside. I think he saw our car. I think he waited." Everything instantly clicked. The detour signs, the relentless tailing, the blocked road, the desperate chase. It wasn't random. It wasn't coincidence. We were targeted. Riley still refuses to drive at night. I still check my rearview mirror every few minutes, even in daylight. Sometimes, late at night, I swear I hear the low rumble of that pickup truck engine behind us again. Sometimes I dream about the dark silhouette sitting behind the tinted glass. And sometimes I check the news, but they never caught anyone. No suspects, no leads, just that blurred description: older beige pickup, male driver, unknown motive. And the quiet fear that somewhere out there on some lonely highway, another pair of women might be stopping at a truck stop just like we did. And he might be sitting in the corner again, engine running, waiting. I never thought a simple overnight drive would be the one thing that still keeps me up at night. I'm Jolene Whitmore, 24 years old, and up until last year, I thought I understood fear, the normal kind. Anxiety before exams, nerves before interviews, the shaky feeling you get when you hear something outside your window late at night. But none of that compares to what happened on that stretch of nowhere road between northern Ohio and Kentucky. I had just graduated cosmetology school a few months earlier and was finally starting to feel like my life was lining back up after the chaos of the previous year, losing my dad, dropping out of college for a while, getting stuck in a tiny apartment I could barely afford. I had been rebuilding myself piece by piece. And one of the small joys that kept me sane was music. So when my childhood friend, Rhea Coleman, called me and said, "Girl, I got us floor tickets for the Columbus show," I didn't even think. I just said yes. Rhea and I weren't exactly the stereotypical best friends. We fought a lot, took space a lot, and then somehow always found our way back to each other. But she was the one person who didn't abandon me when my dad passed away. She brought food, cleaned my place, and literally forced me outside when I refused to leave my room. So, when she suggested a road trip night with me, I felt I owed her that. We left Lexington around 1 p.m., blasting music, talking trash about our old high school, and laughing about all the dumb things we did when we were 17. The concert was incredible, loud, sweaty, emotional, everything we needed. By the time we got back to my car, a silver 2009 Nissan Sentra with more personality issues than any vehicle should legally be allowed to have, it was close to midnight, and we were completely wiped out. The Sentra was packed with snacks, hoodies, chargers, and the emergency blanket I kept in the trunk. We planned to drive home overnight since Rhea had to work the next morning. "Let's just hit the interstate and keep rolling," she said, rubbing her eyes. I nodded, tossing my bag into the back seat. "Bathroom first. My bladder is not built for road trips." "Facts," she muttered. About 20 minutes from the venue, we spotted a gas station that was bright, almost too bright, Hawk's Quick Mart, some independent place. We pulled into the lot, and the fluorescent lights hummed loud enough to make the whole place feel weirdly alive. It wasn't scary, just odd. Off-brand soda signs, dusty snack racks, and an old cashier who barely looked up. We used the restroom, grabbed chips, and sat back in the car with the engine running. That's when everything changed. I opened Google Maps, expecting it to guide me back the same way we came, straight onto I-71 South. But instead, it flashed a new route, faster route available, saving 18 minutes. It was highlighted in blue, pushing us away from the interstate and onto Highway 47, then into what looked like a tiny rural connector road. Ria leaned over my shoulder. What the hell is Highway 47? That wasn't there before. Probably construction or something, I said, though my stomach didn't fully buy it. She shrugged. Whatever gets us home faster, I'm dying. Same. I put the car in drive and headed out of the lot. The moment we left the glow of the gas station lights, darkness swallowed everything. I don't mean the normal kind of darkness you get on country roads. I mean a void, the kind that makes you feel like the world drops off 10 feet ahead of your headlights. Damn, this is empty, Ria whispered. Ohio is basically corn, I said. What did you expect? No, Joe. This is like nothing. Nothing. She was right. The world around us was just huge, flat fields, and the occasional patch of tall grass. It looked abandoned, unfinished, like someone forgot to place houses and farms where they should have been. But I was tired, and the GPS said we were fine. Just go with it, I muttered. 4 miles until the next turn. Those 4 miles felt like 20. Finally, the voice announced, turn right. Where? I whispered, slowing down in confusion. There, Ria pointed. The turn was onto a narrow, rutted road, no painted lines, no lights, potholes everywhere. 3 houses sat along it, each looking like it had been left to rot a decade ago. No porch lights, no signs of life, just darkness. Something cold slid down my spine. Joe, does this look right to you? Honestly, no. You want to turn back? I stared at the map again. It says this connects back to the interstate. She sighed. Let's just hurry, then. I nodded and kept driving. The road stretched forward into deeper darkness. No moon, no stars. The only light came from my headlights cutting through the heavy black. My GPS suddenly announced, rail crossing ahead. I scanned the road. There was nothing. Ria's foot tapped anxiously. Be careful. Some of these old crossings don't have lights. Yeah, Something appeared. We didn't see the train until we were almost on top of it. A massive freight train sat dead on the tracks, blocking the entire road. No warning lights, no bell, just complete silence. I slammed the brakes, jerking us forward. The train looked wrong, not broken, but abandoned. Rust ate through the wheels. Entire cars were coated in graffiti. One door hung crooked, half torn off. No vibration, no sound, no conductor. No sign anyone had touched it in years. Ria swallowed hard. Joe, why is there a train here? And why would your GPS route you through a blocked road? I don't know. I don't know. My chest tightened. Something wasn't right, not the train, not the road, not the route. Okay, we're turning around, I said. Hold on. I shifted into reverse. That's when Ria whispered, trembling, Joe, someone's behind us. At first, I thought she meant another car. Then I looked into the rearview mirror and froze. Multiple dark silhouettes stood in the tall grass behind us, still crouched, watching. My breath caught. What? Go. Ria hissed. I'm trying. The figures suddenly moved. They rushed from the grass, sprinting toward us. At least 5 of them, maybe more. Their shapes were human, but wrong, fast, low to the ground, like they had practiced this 1,000 times. One slammed a hand against the back window. Another pulled on the passenger handle. A third tried the driver's side. "Joe, lean. Drive." Rhea screamed. I floored it. The car jerked backward, tires skidding on gravel as I backed into the grass to get enough space to turn. One figure lunged for my door again, yanking it violently. "Why aren't the child locks working?" I cried. "They're locked. They're locked," Rhea yelled. I didn't think, I didn't care. I hit the gas, turning the wheel sharply. The car swung forward, bumping over something. I prayed it wasn't a person, and sped back down that narrow road. "No way, that was random," Rhea whispered, sobbing. "No way," I said, gripping the wheel so hard my hands shook. When we finally reached the highway again, I pushed the car to 20 over the limit. My whole body was shaking. My lungs felt tight, like I couldn't get enough air in. By the time we pulled back into the safety of that Hawks Quick Mart, both of us were crying. I shut off the engine, leaned my forehead against the steering wheel, and tried to breathe. Rhea stared out the window, her voice barely steady. "Joe, what if someone changed your GPS while we were inside?" My heart dropped. "What?" "You left your phone in the cup holder. I remember because your screen lit up before we walked in. I hadn't locked the car. I always locked the car, but we were tired. We rushed. We weren't thinking." I opened Google Maps. My route had changed back to normal, back to the interstate, back to the path we should have taken all along. The blocked railroad wasn't marked as closed. It wasn't marked as anything. "Joe," Rhea whispered. "Someone planned that." I looked up at the highway stretching into the darkness. I knew she was right. Someone had wanted us down that road. Someone had been waiting. Someone who had done this before. And if we hadn't slammed the brakes fast enough, if we hadn't turned around in time, if those figures had gotten into the car, we wouldn't be alive to tell this story. I was driving back to my hometown in Indiana, a journey of about 10 hours. It was supposed to be a happy, freeing road trip. My friends even tried to convince me to break it into 2 days and crash at a motel halfway, but I didn't have motel money. Hell, I barely had grocery money. My student loans were waiting like wolves, and my old beat-up 2007 silver Honda Civic, the one with the weird rattling noise under the hood, was running on borrowed time. Still, I loaded up my clothes, my thrifted bookshelf, a worn-out suitcase, and leftover college junk, and started the drive home. My car had over 230,000 miles, mismatched tires, and brakes I bought secondhand from a guy named Stitch because the shop price was too high. Yeah, life was glamorous. But I told myself, it's fine. You'll make it home. It's just one day. And for most of the drive, I was right. Until the part of the trip I wish I could erase. It was around 9:40 p.m. when the real trouble began. I was only 2 hours from home, somewhere along a quiet stretch of Highway 41, with forest on both sides. I never thought the drive back home after graduation would be the part of college I remembered the most. Not the 4 years of exams, late-night pizza, roommates, heartbreaks, or the weird campus parties, but that night, that empty American highway, and the man I still dream about. My name is Brianna Thorne, and I had just finished my degree in sociology from a small university in northern Wisconsin. Graduating should have felt like a triumph, but if I'm honest, I was burned out, emotionally, financially, and mentally. College had taken a toll on me in ways I wasn't ready to admit out loud. No billboards, no gas stations, no houses, no lights, just that thick, endless darkness American back roads are known for. My phone had already dipped to 18%, and the signal was barely hanging on. I kept telling myself, come on, Bree. Just push through. You're almost home. Mom's making dinner, remember? But right as I rounded a curve, my car gave this awful, deep groan, like the engine was choking. A warning light flashed. Then another. Then the whole car shook. "Don't do this to me." "Seriously," I whispered, gripping the wheel. The Civic sputtered, coughed twice, and died. I coasted onto the gravel shoulder as the engine clicked itself into silence. For a second, I just sat there, both hands still on the wheel, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Naturally, I tried the ignition. Click. Click. Whine. Then nothing but dead darkness. The dashboard went black, and so did the road around me. I grabbed my phone, holding it up as if that would magically help. No service. Not even one bar. "Awesome," I muttered. "Perfect. Love that for me." Outside, the woods were so quiet it didn't sound real. Not even crickets. Just the wind brushing through the trees, a low, hollow, whooshing sound. I'd grown up in small-town America. I wasn't scared of nature, but something about that silence felt profoundly wrong, like the woods themselves were listening. I thought about staying in the car, but if nobody drove by, I could be there until morning. I thought about getting out and walking, but where would I go? I hadn't seen a gas station in over 30 miles. The isolation hit me all at once, hard. Then I remembered something my dad told me once: if your car breaks down at night, stay inside. People out there ain't always good people. At the time, I rolled my eyes. But now, that advice wrapped around my spine like ice. I sat there for about 10 minutes, desperately trying to pull in even the tiniest hint of phone service. I held it near the windshield, near the ceiling. I even joked out loud, should I climb onto the roof? Would that help? Anybody? No. Cool. But then a loud, sharp knock hit the back window. I screamed, a full-on, instinctive scream. I spun around so fast my neck cracked. There was a man standing right at the rear passenger window, balding, bearded, wearing a jacket too thin for the weather, his clothes dirty like he'd been sleeping outside. And behind him, nothing but trees. Thick, dark trees. He hadn't come from the road. He had come from the woods. I froze as he stared at me, unmoving, his breath fogging the glass. Then he lifted his hand and knocked again. Slow, deliberate, 3 taps. "Hey," I said weakly, raising my hand in a half-wave. No reaction. He just watched me. Watched. Then he tried the door handle. The locked door rattled violently. My whole body tightened. "Oh, hell no," I whispered. The man slowly walked along the side of my car, dragging his hand across the metal, fingernails scraping, making this long, horrible screech. He stopped at the front of the car, staring at the hood for a moment like he was inspecting it. Then he moved to my driver's side. He grabbed the handle, pulled again, harder. Then he leaned down so his face was inches from my window. His eyes looked wrong, too wide, too alert, like he didn't blink enough. He whispered through the glass, "You should open the door." That voice, raspy and broken, made my stomach twist. I shook my head instantly. "Sorry, no, I can't. I'm waiting for help." He cut me off by knocking again, harder this time. Knock. 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 Open it. No. He stared at me for a long, terrifying moment. Then he smiled, but not a normal smile. Too long, too slow, like he wasn't used to the shape of it. Then he said something that made every hair on my arm stand straight up. "Found another one." "Another? What?" Before I could respond, he stepped back and looked toward the woods, like he was signaling, like he expected someone else to come out. That's when pure survival kicked in. I didn't think, didn't weigh options, didn't hope for a miracle. I just acted. I turned the key in the ignition because it was the only thing I could do. Click. Whine. Click. Whir. The engine sputtered back to life, like it was waking up from a nightmare. "Oh, thank you. Thank you," I breathed. The man's head snapped toward me. I slammed my foot on the gas. The car lurched forward, gravel spitting behind me as the Civic shot onto the highway like it had been waiting for this exact moment. I glanced in the rearview mirror. The man was running toward the road faster than I expected, and someone else, another figure, stepped out from the tree line beside him. My blood ran cold. There really was another one. But my car kept going, 40 miles per hour, 60, 70. I didn't stop. Didn't breathe. Didn't even blink. I didn't pull over until I reached a brightly lit gas station, full of people, and with perfect cell service. I sat there shaking and crying so hard I couldn't speak for 5 minutes. When I finally called my mom, she thought I'd been in an accident. I wish it had been that simple. The next day, after I made it home, my dad looked over the car. The fuel pump was dying. The alternator was shot. The battery should have been dead hours before the engine started. He couldn't explain how it suddenly turned on. "You're lucky," he kept saying. "Real damn lucky. But that's not the part that keeps me up at night. The part that haunts me is this: 2 weeks later, a news report came out about a missing girl. Same highway, same area, same kind of situation. Her abandoned car was found deep in the woods. The police suspected foul play. The suspects? Unknown. Every time I think of that, my stomach knots, because when that man whispered, "Found another one," I realized something. I wasn't the first, and I might not have been the last. I never thought a simple weekend girls' trip would change the way I look at empty highways forever. I was 21 at the time, still juggling college classes at Willow Creek Community College while working part-time at a thrift store in a tiny town in northern Alabama. Life wasn't glamorous by any means. But that particular spring, I had saved just enough money to take a much-needed break from everything: assignments, shifts, the constant buzzing inside my head telling me I wasn't doing enough. My best friend, Lana Bristow, was the only person who knew exactly how badly I needed that break. We'd known each other since freshman year. She was from Tennessee, loud, funny, sarcastic. The kind of girl who could make a funeral awkward, but she was also the kind of girl who would show up at your door at 2 a.m. with chicken nuggets because you cried over a bad grade. That weekend, she practically dragged me into her Subaru, tossing her backpack in the back seat and saying, "All right, Harper. We're going. No excuses. You need sunlight, caffeine, and scenery that isn't the thrift store parking lot with that creepy old man who always asks for a senior discount when he's, like, 45. I laughed then. I wish I still could. We planned to drive from Alabama, through Chattanooga, and up to a set of waterfalls Lana had heard about near the Tennessee/North Carolina border. A simple 2-day loop. Nothing crazy, just a girl's trip. But nothing about that trip stayed simple. We left early, before the birds kind of early. I remember staring out the window as the first sunlight peeled itself across the hills. Lana turned down the music, side-eyeing me. "You good?" "Yeah," I said, tugging at the sleeve of my hoodie. "Just tired." "You're always tired. You're always annoying," she snorted. "Fair." We stopped for gas outside Scottsboro, grabbed horrible gas station muffins, and hit the road again. The first 4 hours were perfect, laughing, talking, gossiping about people from school. Everything felt normal until the GPS glitched. We were somewhere past Murphy, North Carolina, on the kind of winding mountain roads where the trees grow thick and the radio cuts out. Lana tapped the screen. why is the route changing on its own? It's just the mountains, I said. Signals garbage around here. The route rerouted again and again. Then it froze completely. No road, no reroute, just a blank map with a blue dot, drifting like we were floating on an ocean. Okay, Lana muttered. That's new. We reached a fork, left or right. But the GPS stayed blank. Right? I guessed. Girl, the way you said that does not fill me with confidence. I checked the sky. Clouds were pulling in fast. It's fine, I said, pointing. Let's just try right. I wish I hadn't said that. The rain came fast, like a sheet. 1 minute it was drizzling, the next the world turned blurry. The road narrowed. Trees leaned in like they were trying to listen. That's when I saw him. A man standing on the shoulder, waving his arm, not like he needed help, but like he was warning cars to slow down. His jacket looked like a reflective safety vest, but it was filthy, mud smeared across the front as if he'd fallen repeatedly. Someone probably broke down, Lana said, slowing the car. Maybe, I said, but my stomach tightened. When we got closer, I noticed he wasn't standing next to a car. There was no vehicle, nothing, just him, the rain, and the thick woods. He waved harder. Lana lowered the window just a bit. Hey, you all right? The man didn't answer. Instead, he pointed aggressively toward the road ahead, then made a slashing motion across his neck. Dude, Lana whispered. That's weird. I don't like this, I said quietly. He stepped closer, rain dripping off his clothes. His hands looked rough, scratched, like he'd been clawing through brush. His eyes looked exhausted but frantic. Something's ahead, he shouted over the rain. You girls don't want to go that way. What's up ahead? Lana asked. He took one more step closer. Then, he simply reached for the back door and climbed in. Just like that. I didn't even have time to scream. What the hell, dude? Lana shouted, twisting around in her seat. He slammed the door shut. Water immediately pooled on the seat beneath him. His breathing was ragged, like he'd been running hard. His hair dripped into his frantic eyes. Drive, he said. Please. Lana's eyes met mine, wide, scared. Harper, just drive, she whispered. She put the car in gear. He smelled like dirty clothes that had been left out in the rain for days. The grime on his hands looked caked on. He clutched the back of Lana's seat so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Thank you, he breathed. Thank you for stopping. Most don't. What's going on? I asked, forcing my voice to stay steady. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stared at Lana. You're taking the wrong road. We were going to turn around, Lana lied quickly. We kind of got lost. He laughed a dry, broken sound. Yeah, people do. His voice had that unsteady tone people get when they haven't slept in days. What's ahead? Lana pressed. For a second, he went quiet. Too quiet. You ever hear about places the cops don't bother patrolling? He asked suddenly. Places where things go missing and folks pretend they never saw anything in the first place. Lana cut me a look. Buddy, we just want to get back to the main road. He looked at me then, not at Lana. You from around here? He asked. No, I said quickly. He nodded, like that was good for some reason. You don't look like you're from here. He smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. Lana jumped in instantly, her voice upbeat and fake. Neither of us are from here. We're just doing a girls' weekend, hiking and stuff. He leaned back, exhaling shakily. I was stationed in Kentucky once, he muttered out of nowhere. Back when I still had a job, before they let me go. You were in the military? Lana asked. He shrugged. Something like that. Now they put me up at the VA clinic, but I don't stay long. Too many rules. Too many nurses going through my things. He laughed again, a little too loud. They found my stuff. They didn't like that. I stared out the window, pretending to look at the trees. My heart hammered so hard I thought the man might hear it. Hey, he said suddenly. You listening? I kept my eyes fixed on the glass. Yeah, you're real quiet, he said. Quiet ones always see too much. Before I could respond, Lana cut him off quickly. So, how far up is this area we shouldn't go to? She asked loudly, forcing the conversation back. He blinked, confused for a second, then scratched his arm. A mile, maybe less. You'll see the pull-off. Don't stop there. Not unless you want to meet the folks who live in those woods. My whole body chilled. There's a camp out here? Lana asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he leaned forward again, whispering, You girls are lucky you picked me up. Then he stared directly at me again. Real lucky. I pressed myself into the door, my hand finding the lock. The rain thickened, loud enough to drown out everything else. Lana's voice trembled. There's an overpass up ahead. Maybe we should drop you there so you stay dry. He didn't move. You trying to get rid of me? He asked softly. No, dude, Lana said with a nervous laugh. I'm just trying to help. You think I don't know when someone's trying to get rid of me? His tone sharpened, and he leaned aggressively between our seats. I flinched. Hey, I said softly, forcing calm. She didn't mean it like that. It's just safer under the bridge. No rain, no car splashing water. He turned to me again, studying my face. You're scared, he whispered. My throat tightened. Lana slowed the car as we reached the overpass. She pulled onto the shoulder. The man finally exhaled, long and heavy. All right, he muttered. This is fine. This is fine. He opened the door halfway, paused, then turned back to us. You two need to leave this road, he commanded. Don't look back. Don't stop for nothing. And if you see anyone up ahead waving you down, don't slow the hell down for them. Got it? I swallowed hard. Got it. He stepped out, but he didn't walk away. He just stood there under the overpass, staring at us, hands at his sides, rain pouring behind him like a curtain. Go, I whispered. Yeah, Lana breathed. She hit the gas. We drove for maybe 30 seconds before Lana let out a shaking breath. Harper, she whispered. I'm freaking out. Me, too, I admitted, gripping the console. What if he follows us? What if he's on foot? I said, trying to rationalize. Honestly, he looked more lost than dangerous. Yeah, but Jesus, he just climbed in, Lana stressed. Who does that? I shook my head. I didn't know. The woods around us thickened again. The GPS was still blank. The sky still bruised and heavy with rain. Then we saw it. A small, dirt pull-off on the right. No signs. No other cars. Lana slowed. Is that what he meant? Probably. The pull-off had a narrow path leading straight into the trees. Dark, wet, muddy. Something about it felt wrong, like the air itself was heavier there. Keep driving, I said quickly. Yeah, okay. Lana pressed the gas. As we passed the trailhead, I glanced out the window, just for a second. There was movement between the trees. Not an animal, a person, standing perfectly still, halfway behind a trunk, wearing dark clothing soaked through from the rain, just watching our car pass. I jerked in my seat. I saw it too, Lana whispered. The next mile was pure silence. Neither of us breathed normally. Then the GPS flickered. Oh, thank God, Lana muttered. A map appeared. We were off route, but at least the system was working again. It rerouted us back toward the main highway. Just as Lana turned onto the connecting road, she said, "We were lucky, huh?" "Yeah," I whispered. The rain softened. The trees thinned, and then my phone buzzed. No service, but a notification appeared. Unknown number. Why didn't you stop? My stomach dropped open. Lana saw my face. What? I turned the screen toward her. Her hands trembled on the wheel. How? How would someone out here? The phone buzzed again. Unknown number. You should have stopped at the pull-off. Then a picture came through. A blurry shot taken from inside the woods, our car passing by, taken from maybe 20 feet away. Lana slammed her foot on the gas. Holy, holy, holy. Don't stop. I shouted. I'm not. She sped through the curve so fast I thought we'd skid off the road. The messages stopped once we hit the main highway again. The service returned. The rain eased. For the next hour, neither of us spoke. It wasn't until 2 days later, back home, that I worked up the courage to Google the area. I wish I hadn't. There were forums, old ones, about missing hikers along that same road. People talked about an unmarked trail that led to some off-grid community. A place law enforcement didn't bother visiting anymore. A place people didn't come back from. Some said they'd seen people waving down cars, pretending to warn them, then leading them into the woods. Others mentioned a man with a safety vest who'd escaped once, babbling about them. The post stopped around 2019, but one message stood out: if you see someone waving you down on that road, do not stop. That's how they choose you. I closed my laptop and cried. Not dramatic crying, quiet, shaking crying. Because I kept thinking about that blurry picture. Someone had been standing in those woods, watching, waiting. And if Lana hadn't kept driving? If that man under the overpass hadn't warned us, if she had turned into that pull-off, I don't think we'd be here. Sometimes at night when I can't sleep, I think about the man we picked up. His dirty clothes, his frantic eyes, his trembling hands. He wasn't the threat. He was the warning. And I don't know what scares me more, the things he saw out there, or the fact that someone had my number. I change phones, change numbers. But sometimes when I drive alone on empty roads, I still think I see shapes in the trees. Still think I see someone waving me down. I speed up every time, because I know better now. Some roads look empty. They aren't. I always thought road trips were supposed to feel freeing, windows down, hair whipping everywhere, bad pop songs blaring while you laugh with your best friend about nothing and everything. But that was before the summer of 22. Before the road to Sierra Morada, before I realized that sometimes the scariest part of a trip isn't where you're going, it's who notices you along the way. My name is Alyssa, and at the time I was 23. I had just finished my first year as a pediatric nurse. My best friend, Riley, the loud, chaotic, brutally honest girl I'd grown up with, was the kind of person who believed every problem could be cured with a weekend getaway. Girl, she'd said one night, leaning across my kitchen counter with a bottle of Dr. Pepper. You are one more double shift away from losing your damn mind. We're going. No excuses. I'd protested. My mom would freak out. I had laundry to do. I hated long drives. But the truth was, I needed an escape. I needed to breathe. So, when she offered a 3-day girls' trip to a tiny mountain town in Arizona called Sierra Morada, I said yes. That, yes, still haunts me. I woke up early the morning we left. The sky was still dim blue. My apartment smelled like citrus cleaner and old coffee. Classic me. Riley barged in without knocking, also classic her, holding a bag of breakfast burritos. Rise and shine, baby nurse, she grinned. I got the good ones from Tito's. I laughed. So, we're starting the trip with heartburn. It builds character. We packed my silver Honda CR-V, my reliable old girl who rattled when she hit 75 miles per hour but never once failed me. The air was crisp, the sun just beginning to peek over the apartments. It felt normal, peaceful even. Playlist? Riley asked. You're not touching it. Girl, your music is depressing as hell, she groaned. We are listening to road trip bangers. No sad nurse vibes today. Fine, I muttered. But nothing from your weird outlaw country phase. Damn. Okay. One time I play Willie Nelson and you never let it go. We laughed, and the car rolled onto the highway. We didn't know then that someone would soon be following us. About 2 hours into the drive, we crossed into the desert stretch of New Mexico. Nothing but flat land, pale sand, long, quiet roads, and a sun that felt like it was leaning too close. I swear this place looks like a Fallout map, Riley said. Please don't manifest us being attacked by mutants. No promises. An old blue pickup truck had been behind us for a few miles. Nothing weird about that. Except he always switched lanes when we did. Always hung the same distance. Always just close enough. Riley, I said quietly. That truck's been behind us since exit 143. She looked in the mirror. Maybe he's going the same direction. Maybe, I murmured. But something felt off. The truck looked beat up, faded doors, mismatched paint, no plates on the front. And through his windshield, all I could make out was a dark baseball cap, not his face, not his eyes, just the silhouette. He's probably nothing, Riley said, faking a confidence that didn't reach her voice. Just some dude with a crappy truck. I tried to shake it off. People follow similar routes all the time. I was being dramatic, right? 30 minutes later, the blue truck was still there, still switching lanes when we did, still matching our speed. We pulled into a small gas station near a place called LM Ridge. The kind of dot-on-the-map town that had one store, one pump, and one guy sitting outside selling peaches out of a styrofoam cooler. This place looks like a horror movie, Riley muttered. Please don't say that right now, I whispered. As we filled up, I tried not to look paranoid, but I scanned the road anyway. Don't see him, Riley said. You're good. I finally exhaled. Maybe I was imagining it. Maybe long shifts had fried my brain. We went inside for snacks. The clerk, a tired-looking woman with red hair and a thick local accent, glanced at us. Y'all traveling far? Arizona, I said with a smile. She hesitated. Be careful on the 601, folks. Folks drive like they're being chased by the devil out there. Good to know, Riley said, trying to joke. We'll keep an eye out for Satan. The woman didn't laugh. When we got back outside, the hair on the back of my neck lifted. The blue truck was parked on the far side of the lot. Same baseball cap. Still no face visible. Alyssa, Riley whispered. Get in now. My stomach dropped. We climbed into the car fast and pulled out quickly, gravel crunching under the tires. Within seconds, the blue truck pulled out too and followed. Okay, this is too weird, Riley said, her voice tight. He wasn't even getting gas. My hands shook on the steering wheel. Maybe he just happened to stop there. No, no way, she insisted. He waited. The road narrowed to a two-lane highway winding through canyon-like terrain. Tall red cliffs rose around us, making everything feel claustrophobic. I checked the mirror. He was so close now I could see his bumper. Why is he tailgating? I whispered. Riley turned around in her seat. Hey, back off, she yelled, flipping him off through the back window. Riley, what are you doing? Dude's being a psycho. The truck sped up, closing the distance further. Riley's face paled instantly. Okay, maybe don't piss him off. Let's stay calm. But the driver flashed his high beams at us, once, twice, then continuously. The blinding light filled the car. Alyssa, speed up. I can't. The road's too curvy. A long, steep drop stretched beside us, with no guardrail. Jesus Christ, Riley whispered. He's pushing you. He wants you to go faster. I'm not killing us, I snapped. Then the truck swerved violently, as if trying to bump our car. What the hell is his problem? Riley cried. My heart hammered so hard I felt it in my throat. The cliffs around us made the sound of the engines echo strangely. Everything felt too close, too loud. Then, the truck suddenly backed off, just enough to stay on our tail, watching, waiting. About 15 minutes later, a sign appeared, Sierra Morada, scenic route, 27 miles. I'm taking it, I said instantly. Girl, are you sure? It's scenic. Tourist heavy. More cars, more people. We turned off the main highway. The blue truck followed. Riley cursed under her breath. Okay. Nope. He's not casual anymore. This dude is straight up following us. The scenic route was beautiful, but isolated, wide fields, occasional old barns, patches of pine trees. The sun hung low now, bleeding orange across the sky. I tried calling 911. No service. I tried calling my mom. No service. Riley shook her phone. Damn it, nothing. The truck closed in again, flashing his lights until my eyes ached. Pull over, Riley whispered. Let him pass. No, I said. What if he stops, too? Shit, you're right. My voice cracked. What does he want from us? Before she could answer, the truck sped forward, swerving into the oncoming lane and pulling up beside us. Our windows were down slightly, and I could hear him yelling something, but the wind stole his words. What is he screaming? Riley cried. Then we saw it, his arm out the window. Not waving, not gesturing, but pointing at us repeatedly, aggressively, like he was demanding we pull over. Nope, not happening, Riley yelled. I tried to keep my hands steady. He kept yelling, kept pointing, kept matching our speed, and then he jerked his truck toward us, inch by inch, trying to force us off the road. Go, go, go. Riley shrieked. I slammed the gas pedal. The truck revved loud, furious, but the incline slowed him for a second. That second saved us. I took a sharp turn onto an unmarked dirt road. The truck missed the turn. Dust exploded behind us as I barreled down the gravel road. The CRV bounced so hard our teeth knocked. Alyssa, Riley breathed. Where the hell are we going? I don't know. I don't care. We just need to lose him. I hit another bump and the car skidded. Riley looked behind us. He's turning around. The sun was almost gone, the desert dimmed into shadow. The dirt road led nowhere, just an abandoned ranch, broken fencing, tall dead grass. We need to hide, Riley whispered. No, I said. We need to keep moving. A sound cut me off, a distant engine, growing louder. Alyssa, Riley grabbed my arm. He's coming back. He's finding us. Headlights appeared over the hill. The blue truck. My pulse went icy. He's blocking the road back. Riley screamed. He's blocking it, Alyssa, he's blocking it. I floored the gas. The CRV shot forward. He's going to hit us. Riley cried. Hold on. The truck swerved, trying to cut us off, but I jerked the wheel and dodged him by inches. His horn blared, echoing off the empty ranch buildings. We tore through the dirt path, rocks clattering against the undercarriage. There. Riley pointed. There's a service road. Go. We veered onto a narrow strip of cracked pavement. The truck followed. The service road led up a small hill, and after that hill, lights. Town lights. I burst into tears. Riley, we're close. We're almost there. Just don't slow down, she said. Not for anything. We flew down the last stretch. The town of Sierra Morada came into view. Gas stations, restaurants, a sheriff's truck parked near the edge. The blue truck suddenly slowed, then stopped. Just stopped right there on the hill, watching us. Riley sobbed. Oh my God. Oh my God. Is he coming? But he stayed there, engine idling, headlights fixed on us like eyes. We didn't stop driving until we reached the sheriff's station. 2 officers came out quickly when they saw Riley crying and me shaking so badly I could barely talk. One was a tall Hispanic man with kind eyes. Hey, what happened? Are you girls hurt? We explained everything, the lights, the tailgating, the yelling, the attempts to run us off the road. The officers exchanged a look. The older one sighed. We've had reports. Not enough to tie to one suspect. But girls traveling alone have been getting targeted around these back routes. My stomach twisted. Did anyone get hurt? I whispered. He hesitated. Some didn't check in. Some cars were found abandoned. Riley's hand clamped onto mine. Why didn't anyone stop him? She cried. Why isn't he arrested? The younger officer said quietly, because he never stays. He never lingers. By the time we get calls, he's gone. Like he knows the timing. A chill spidered up my spine. They drove us to our motel themselves and told us not to travel at night. They took down all our details, promised they'd scan the area, but the blue truck was never found. Not that night. Not the next day. Not ever. The morning we left, I felt sick. The drive home was supposed to be easier, daylight, more traffic, no detours. But as we passed the stretch of road where he'd last appeared, I couldn't help looking at the hills. Just once, just for a second. And that's when I saw it. A beat-up old blue truck parked far off the road behind a cluster of dried-out shrubs. Driver's door open. No plates. A baseball cap hanging on the mirror. Riley saw it, too. Her voice cracked. He waited. He literally waited to see if we'd come back through. I pressed the gas pedal, heart hammering. We didn't stop. We didn't breathe. We didn't look again. And even now, 2 years later, whenever I'm back on a quiet highway, I still get the same cold chill creeping down my spine because I know without a doubt that he wasn't just messing with us. He was hunting, and we just barely slipped out from between his teeth. Underscore 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 underscore. Beginning of new story, introducing Jenny and Silver Ridge. I never planned on taking that road. If anything, I always swore I'd avoid driving through little towns in the middle of nowhere, especially the ones that felt like they'd been abandoned sometime in the early 90s, and nobody bothered to update the maps. But that weekend, everything in my life felt like it was pushing me toward doing things I normally avoided. The trip wasn't supposed to be scary. It was meant to be a reset. Just me and Jenny. I'd known Jenny since we were 13. We were the kind of girls who made fun of cheesy horror movies and swore that if we ever ended up in one of those situations, we'd actually use common sense. Back then, we were convinced being smart kept you safe. A lot changes when you grow up. Real danger doesn't wait around to make sense. And sometimes luck is the only thing standing between you and becoming a statistic. The weekend getaway started because life had gotten too heavy. My dad had been in the hospital for almost 3 months. Heart issues, bad ones, and I'd been working double shifts at the diner to cover bills my job barely touched. Jenny had just gotten out of a year-long relationship with a guy she loved way more than he deserved. So, when she barged into my apartment one evening with a Red Bull in one hand and my overnight bag in the other, saying, "Pack your crap, girl. We're going somewhere quiet before I lose my damn mind," I didn't argue. I didn't even ask where we were going. I just threw clothes into the bag while she talked a million miles a minute about a rental cabin she found near Silver Ridge, Colorado, a little tourist town. Mountains, lakes, quiet. I didn't realize how much I needed quiet until I heard myself breathe differently in the car. The first 2 days were perfect. We cooked at the cabin, binge-watched reality TV, went into town for groceries and iced coffee, took pictures by the lookout points, and joked around like teenagers again. It felt good, human, like my life wasn't falling apart piece by piece. And Jenny, God, she was glowing again, laughing again. Her ex had drained the happiness out of her without her even noticing, and this trip was the first time I'd seen her be herself in over a year. The day we were leaving, the universe still felt normal. Not great, not fixed, just normal. If I'd known what was waiting for us back on the road, I probably wouldn't have even left the cabin. But we don't get warnings like that in real life. The only hint we ever get is a feeling in our stomach, the one we always ignore. We packed the car around 11 o'clock in the morning. Jenny insisted on driving the first half because I tended to get tired early. It was a long ride back to Kentucky, around 16 or 17 hours, and we didn't want to stay another night in a hotel. Everything started out fine. We listened to music. We made fun of Jenny's Spotify recommendations when she threw on some depressing acoustic playlist. "Woman, this is a road trip, not a breakup montage." She rolled her eyes. "Shut up. I like sad dudes with guitars." We got gas 3 times, ate cheap gas station snacks, argued about whether Cheetos counted as a real meal, and talked about everything and nothing. Hours passed, the sun went down, and once we crossed into Indiana, the highway became a web of exits and detours, thanks to construction signs every 10 minutes. By the time Jenny got tired and I took over the wheel, it was already close to 3 a.m. We were supposed to stay on Route 64, but the GPS kept recalculating, then recalculating again, and somehow we ended up on a narrow 2-lane road that barely fit 2 cars at once. Trees pressed against the road like they were trying to swallow it whole. Fog clung to the edges. No streetlights, no houses, just blackness on both sides. Jenny had fallen asleep in the passenger seat, curled up with her hoodie over her face. At first, the silence felt peaceful. Then it started feeling wrong. The road was too empty, too quiet, and I was too tired to think straight. It started with headlights in my rearview mirror, faint at first, then brighter, then brighter. The car was far behind me, maybe 2 football fields, but something about it made my stomach tense. Most cars pass. Most cars don't stay behind you at the exact same distance for 20 minutes. I tried to shake off the paranoia. I turned the radio down, took slow breaths, and told myself, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Chill out. People drive early. It's fine. But the road got narrower, Kavya. The trees blocked the horizon. Everything felt like it was closing in. And the car kept following. Not closer, not farther, just there, watching. I flicked my eyes to Jenny, wishing she'd wake up because I didn't want to deal with this feeling alone. But her face was buried under her hoodie, and she was dead asleep. Then it got worse. Once we reached a part of the road that twisted like a snake, the headlights behind me suddenly sped up. Fast. Too fast. I felt my pulse jump. No, no, no. The car behind me swerved slightly. The engine roared, loud even from a distance. And then right as I rounded a curve, brights, they hit me so hard I flinched. The interior of our car lit up like someone had turned on a stadium floodlight. My eyes stung. Okay. Nope. That's not normal. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. The car behind me pressed closer. Closer. Now they were right on my bumper, so close I couldn't see their headlights, just white light flooding through the rear window. Jenny. Jenny, wake up. I reached over and shook her shoulder, but she barely mumbled. I didn't have time to try again, because the next curve revealed something that made all the air leave my lungs. 4 fat, heavy tires sat in the middle of the road. Not rolling, not part of a blowout, placed like a row, like someone had set them there. My brain didn't process it in time. I was going too fast. I tried to swerve, but there was no shoulder, just a ditch and thick trees. We hit the tires hard. The car jerked up. The sound of rubber scraping rubber echoed through the cabin. Something thumped under us like metal hitting the bottom of the car. Jenny jolted awake with a scream. What the? I slammed the gas pedal down. The car behind us kept tailing, but now it slowed slightly, like it expected us to stop, like it wanted us to. Jenny was breathless. What happened? What did we hit? Tires. Someone put tires in the road. What? Why? Before I could answer, we rounded the next bend, and that's when I saw them. On the right side of the road, the rising sun lit the bushes from behind. Light spilled through the branches, making silhouettes easy to see. Silhouettes of people. 5, 6, maybe 7. All crouched, all watching, not moving, not startled, waiting. Jenny gasped. Holy! I couldn't look long, I needed my eyes on the road. But what I saw made my blood run cold. Someone was holding a long metal object. Another had something like a thick wooden stick. One person had both hands low, like they were holding something heavy near the ground. These weren't bystanders. These weren't hunters. These weren't people waiting for a bus at dawn. This was an ambush. And they were pissed we hadn't stopped. My voice cracked as I said, "We're not dying here." Jenny whispered, "Drive. Just go. Go." So I did. I floored it. The tires screamed as the car hit 70 miles per hour, then 80, then 90 on a road barely wide enough for 2 cars. Branches whipped at the sides. The GPS kept losing signal. Jenny kept glancing back, her panic rising with every second. They're following us. I risked a glance. The car behind us, an old dark-colored truck, was speeding up again. The headlights bounced violently, hitting potholes and dips like it didn't care what happened to its suspension. The truck roared closer. My hands were slick with sweat. My throat felt like it was closing. Jenny slapped the dashboard. "Faster, please." "I'm trying." The curves were deadly. I could barely control the car at the speed we were going, but slowing down wasn't an option. We reached a fork in the road. The GPS didn't load. 2 unmarked paths. Left or right? No time. The truck lurched forward, closing the distance. Jenny pointed frantically. Left. 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 I yanked the wheel. The car skidded, fishtailing so hard I thought we'd tip. The truck overshot the turn. For a moment, just one moment, it disappeared from view. I didn't breathe. Jenny didn't breathe. Then the road straightened. I kept driving until my arms shook from gripping the wheel so tightly. We didn't stop until we saw a flickering fluorescent sign that said Dewey's Fuel and Mart, a tiny gas station. Old, mostly empty, but it was something. I pulled in fast, almost hitting the pump. Jenny jumped out first. Her voice was shaking. Check the tires. Check the tires. I got out and crouched down. My stomach dropped. Each tire had at least 3 or 4 nails embedded in it. Not random nails, fresh roofing nails, still shiny. Someone had scattered them inside the tires we hit. If the tires weren't brand new, we would have blown out on those deadly curves. I felt sick. Jenny hugged herself, pacing. What the hell did we drive into? Who does that? Who just